just the force of whatever was inside of that truck at the time, completely blowing the roof off of it, the sides, like a huge fireball shot out the top of this. So the question is, did they not know the magnitude of what they had inside that truck at the time? Did they maybe underestimate how explosive that was going to be? And then obviously a lot of neighbors are wondering if they didn't know truly what they had in there, why didn't they take this truck to an open parking lot, maybe a little bit farther away from the neighborhood, so that people weren't injured? But that is what the LAPD was talking about earlier, that they thought because these were the homemade improvised explosive devices, basically really big M80s, they described them as, they didn't think they were safe enough to put inside of a car and drive down city streets in Los Angeles. They didn't want to endanger the public, and that's why they wanted to detonate them on scene here. The rest of the 5,000 pounds of illegal fireworks they had, they seemed perfectly comfortable taking those out of the neighborhood. So everyone's just left wondering right now what went wrong during this incident out here today, and wondering how many people were truly injured, because as you can imagine, pieces of metal were flying everywhere when this armored truck exploded.
Nicole, I was able to catch a report earlier today here on KCAL 9, and I know that you had mentioned just kind of the degree of these fireworks and the grade here. Do you know, you had made mention of improvised fireworks. Were these commercial fireworks or these homemade fireworks? What type are these?
It sounds like probably the majority of the 5,000 pounds of illegal fireworks were commercial grade, like maybe the mortars you see going off in the skies. Neighbors tell us they hear fireworks in this neighborhood every single night, and they couldn't believe that someone would have a cache this large sitting right inside this house in a residential neighborhood. We're not certain exactly how many of the homemade improvised explosive devices there were inside of the home, what kind of explosive power they had, but the LAPD captain that spoke with us earlier this evening at about 5 o'clock said that they were basically like really, really big M80s. So that sounds extremely dangerous to me. And that's what they had inside of that armored vehicle that they were trying to detonate in this neighborhood. So they didn't have to drive them down city streets and potentially endanger the public if anything happened. So it's probably too soon to speculate about what happened, but it seems like maybe these homemade explosive devices were a lot stronger than anyone could have guessed. And you have to wonder too, like the officers that are out here responding and trying to keep the neighborhood safe, were any of them hurt? Because I'm sure they were much closer to this truck than any of the neighbors or the field crews that were pushed back. So I'm sure they were doing their best to keep everybody safe, and sometimes things like this happen. They have an extremely dangerous job.